Good evening. If I could have your attention. My name is Marty West. I'm a professor at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and Deputy Director of the Program on Education Policy and Governance here at Harvard's Kennedy School. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's event. I want to thank you particularly for being here, given that we're going head-to-head with the Red Sox game, and I can let you know that they are winning 2-1 after 2 innings, and we can provide occasional updates throughout the event. We didn't know that we were going to be in this situation when we scheduled the event. I think we expected the Yankees to put up more of a fight, but here we are. And as you know, the occasion for our gathering is the release of a new book by Kara Stillings-Kandel, a senior fellow at the Pioneer Institute, and the Pioneer Institute are our co-sponsors for the event, and we're very glad to be working with them in this capacity. We decided to take advantage of the occasion of the release of this book to have a broader conversation about charter school policy in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and what we've learned from that experience over time. As I think about charter schools in Massachusetts, there's a bit of a paradox. They're widely acknowledged to have the strongest performance track record of any charter school sector nationwide, but in recent years they've been among the slowest growing charter schooling sectors in the country and the subject of considerable political controversy. So what explains that paradox? What have policymakers gotten right? What have they gotten wrong? And what comes next? Those are some of the questions I'm hoping to learn about this evening. And so I'm very glad that you're here to learn alongside me. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jim Sturgis, the executive director, I believe, at the Pioneer Institute. As I said, they are co-sponsoring the event, and he's going to introduce the rest of our speakers. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. I'm Jim Sturgis. As Marty said, I am Executive Director of Pioneer. Welcome to the fight for the best charter public schools in the nation. Thank you, Marty, for co-sponsoring, and we should say also congratulations for your well-earned appointment as Professor of Education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. We have additional co-sponsors. I'd like to say thank you to them as well. Harvard's Program on Education Policy and Governance, Paul Peterson, thank you so much. The Center for Education Reform, Massachusetts Parents United, the Apple Tree Institute, Sabas International, the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools, the Massachusetts Charter Public School Association, the Center for Advancing Opportunity, and the American Federation for Children. We're very pleased to have with us 2 of the architects of the state's landmark 1993 Education Reform Act, the Commissioner of Education, thank you for being here, and experts who, during the course of remarks in the panel discussion, will express, gasp, opposing views. It's a good thing. The title of tonight's event is drawn from Dr. Kara Stillings-Kandel's new book, and I would like to hold it up for you so you can see it. It's available for purchase afterwards as well, and you'll sign them, right, Kara? Fantastic, thank you. Over a decade, as a Pioneer Senior Fellow, Kara has undertaken 30 different research papers covering virtually every aspect of the charter school debate. In her new book, she has consolidated that body of work into what is the definitive book on the best public charter schools in the country. In Massachusetts, our hope is that the book will remind lawmakers about the successful reforms that have made our public schools the best in the nation. In events around the country, we also aim to familiarize a number of state policymakers in other parts of the country of the Massachusetts story, so they too can adopt what is appropriate for them. So Marty said, yep, this is a contentious issue in the Bay State, and it has been since 1993. Little has changed in that regard, even as we celebrate a quarter century of the state's historic education reform law. The co-authors of the 1993 law designed a system of state funding, and we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars at the state level and locally in exchange for some really hard reforms, like high academic standards, standardized student assessments, teacher testing, and also charter schools. Each one of those reforms has been hotly debated among the adults in the K-12 system. What is inarguable is that they have benefited the Commonwealth's children enormously. For over a decade, Massachusetts has been the top-rated or near the top of the nation in reading and math assessments at the national level. Today, Massachusetts is one of a handful of countries, if you will. As a state, we rank in the top countries in math and science. In the last quarter century, no group of public schools has accomplished more to close achievement gaps than Massachusetts charter schools. The charter formula of autonomy for accountability has worked enormously well and has been a huge success for Massachusetts urban students. Independent academic researchers from around the country have all drawn the same conclusion. They set a very high bar, and they are providing outstanding academic opportunities for low-income and minority kids. The acrimony of the recent charter school debates is unlike the rational and principled lawmaking and leadership of the two fellows who are sitting over here, Senate President Tom Birmingham and Governor Weld, who demonstrated that education reform could be put together in a very different fashion. Their approach was based on facts and evidence and a desire to make a good education available to all children. They showed decency and mutual respect. They didn't agree on a lot at the start, they agreed on a lot in the end. Our politics and our school children, I don't think I need to tell you, could use a lot more of that these days. So it's my honor to introduce Pioneer's distinguished senior fellow, and it is an honor to work with Tom Birmingham, who is, and I don't think you can say, I'm not saying this because he works with me, because he's the former Senate President, he is likely the most consequential state legislator in American K-12 education in the last 50 years. Why do I say it? Look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. A rise from 12th in the country to #1 in the country. Prior to joining Pioneer, he was executive director of Citizen Schools, Massachusetts, and senior counsel with Edwards, Wildman, and Palmer. He was elected to the Massachusetts State Senate in 1991. He served as co-Senate committee chair on education. He was later chair of Senate Ways and Means, and he was ultimately the Senate president. We have a lot of Harvard grads here. That's why we held the event here, by the way. Mr. Birmingham graduated from Harvard College and Harvard Law School and is a Rhodes Scholar. Tom, thank you very much.